डॉक्टर साहब फिर मेरे ख्याल में आप लीड लीजिए. लेट्स स्टार्ट विद यू.
Sir, I think Naveed already has the list of participants. So just let me brief you about generally about UMT and my own Department of Political Science and International Relations. Very, very brief. Alhamdulillah, we do have our faculty members with us. We have Dr. Fatma Sajjad sitting. We have other colleagues. So UMT is the general category university in Pakistan, and Alhamdulillah, it has got good credentials, all recognized by HEC. In the Department of Political Science and Department of Political Science and International Relations, we are running 6 HEC approved program. And Alhamdulillah, good to see in our flagship capstone PhD IR program, lot of sitting army personnel as students of PhD IR. So we have Commandant of Pakistan Naval Academy, Deputy Commandant. He is presently my student in PhD IR. And we do have certain level of colonels and the brigadiers, regular army members. They are part of our PhD IR program. So rest, I think, Alhamdulillah, we are doing a good job, and under the patronage of our founding fathers of our university, Abid Sherwani Saab, Ibrahim Saab. So the crux of this webinar is that we have to look somewhere else, whatever have been our traditional forte. So I think the speakers will deliberate more on it. So without wasting any of the time, I will request Naveed to kindly call the first person who is going to speak on this forum on this grief.
Abid Saab is here. We can see Abid Saab.
जी.
Abid Saab, please request you.
जी आवाज आ रही है मेरी सर?
जी आ रही है.
अच्छा जी. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I'm really pleased to welcome all the participants of this webinar organized by GREF-UMT Auric and Department of International Relations and Political Science under the leadership of Dr. Shoaib and his team as well. This is very important webinar series we are organizing for next 2-3 weeks. And in this seminar, we are trying to cover defense and national security, national interest-based foreign policy, Golden Ring Initiative and media, Pakistan national political narrative, strategic economic security, energy security, industrial trade and security, and very important, another aspect is the food security as well. And we have very blessed that we, in this seminar, in this webinar, we have renowned our heroes are with us. General Sikandar Afzal is here. General Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab is here. General Nasser Janjua Saab, our former National Security Advisor and Commander Southern Command, also with us. So if we, and General Asif Yassin Malik Saab also is there. If we look around the GREF is basically consists of 5 countries, including Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, China, and Russia. And if we look into the situation we have at the moment, this GREF is very in turmoil. Have a look with Pakistan. Pakistan is engaged with India, Kashmir, and externally and internally we are facing problem with FATF and internal security as well, political situation, economic situation. And we look around our neighboring country, China is also engaged with Ladakh, India. And if you look at Iran is also engaged in Yemen and other countries as well. And if we look into the Turkey is also engaged in Syria and other problem as well. Although luckily Turkey is very strong economically, and at the moment he is one of the role model for us as well. And if you look into the Russia is also engaged with some Armenia and Azerbaijan. So this graph is a really firing now. And if you look into the Afghanistan, is a neighboring country of Pakistan, and both countries are depending on each other. And we are also engaged in Afghanistan as well. And if we settle Afghanistan in a peaceful way, that would be very blessing for Pakistan as well. So I'm not expert on all these issues and topics, but we have very good speakers and very good experts. We have General Nasir Janjua Saab and General Skandar Afzal Saab, Naeem Khalid Saab, Asif Yasin Malik Saab will definitely throw their light on these issues, how we handle and how we cope all these internal issues and external issues to bring prosperity in Pakistan, peace as well. And I'm also very grateful to Hasnain Mirza, who initiated this GREF, and his team as well. And my audit team and my political science and international departments team and their participants are with this webinar. And we do hope that inshallah we'll continue with this spirit in future as well. And we will organize more and more webinars to enlighten all these issues with our nation and our international friends as well. Thank you very much for Hasnain Mirza Saab, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abu Saab. Sir, General Secretary Saab, with your permission, I'll just take a few minutes to introduce GREF and our webinar concept. And I think we have a very good participation, 59 participants so far here. Thank you, everybody. So let me I will go very briefly on the GREF and concept. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Dear participants and honorable speakers of the webinar, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, on behalf of GREF, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. And our special thanks to Mr. Abid Sherwani, Director General UMT, University of Management and Technology, his faculty members, Dr. Saab there, and the staff of UMT from Oracle and other, for all their cooperation and support in arranging this webinar and the previous series of webinar also. And we hope that we will be doing it in future also. We are also, GREF is also grateful to our esteemed speakers, General Naeem Khalid Lodi, General Nasir Janjua, General Asif Yasin Malik, for joining us today, for sparing their time on precious time and giving us they're going to give us their views, opinions on the topic of today's webinar. And today we will be our chair of this webinar will be Chairman GREF, General Sikandar Afzal. So he will also be moderating the seminar, and he will be also chair of the seminar. So I'll just take a few minutes to introduce GREF. As Abu Saab said, that Golden Ring Economic Forum, the idea started in 2010. I wrote a small paper on this thing, and then it started from there. And by 2015, this organization came into being as a think tank and a lobbying group. In 2016, we got registered under the government of Pakistan, under their society act or whatever was there. So the board of governors of GREF basically, and the members, they consist of businessmen, ex-servicemen, ex-diplomats, Pakistani diplomats, and industrialists, then academia. So all of them are, it's a group of multiple, you can say, expertise. So, and the main aim is to bring all type of expertise under one roof, and we can work towards the betterment of our national economic and national security and national economic security, what we call. And the Golden Ring, why we call it Golden Ring, if you see Pakistan, China, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, they form sort of a ring formation around Central Asia and Afghanistan. So that's why it's called ring. And why we call it golden, the total 30% plus resources of the entire globe of the earth belong to these 5 countries. They manage natural resources, human resources, whatever. So that's why we call it Golden Ring Economic Forum. An economic forum because we are working on the strategic economic cooperation between these 5 countries. This is our basically what we are doing. Our mission is to form a grouping of this new grouping of these 5 countries. We used to call it a bloc, but we had detailed discussions with our partner countries concerned, the organizations like in China, Russia, and Iran. So they have proposed that instead of calling it a bloc at this stage, let's call it a group of countries. So it's okay. We, as long as our purpose is solved, we can call it anything. And the objectives are basically, as Dr. also said, that we have to, lobbying for Pakistan interest in these 5 countries and making sure that the strategic economic interests of these 4 countries are we can bring them into Pakistan. That will be in that way we can secure Pakistan's security and economic security both. If their strategic economic interests are in Pakistan, so that will be helping Pakistan in strengthening itself in the region. We all know that our geopolitical, geographical position on the globe, it has become very, very critical now. It used to be, but now it has become very critical because of the regional changes, what are geostrategic changes which are happening. And similarly, we want to develop, we are helping countries for policy formation in this respect in multilateral cooperation. We also, one of our objectives is to bring in the research which these countries already have to Pakistan so that we can also benefit with that from there. And similarly, we want to do initiate different projects, and we have initiated our some initiatives based after discussing with these people of China, Iran, and then Russia. So we have talked to the concerned organization, government departments, and then the high-ranking officials in these countries. They all, the good thing is all these 4 countries are very much supportive of this whole idea of new grouping. And they are very well, we have discussed with the Chinese, and we told them this is also a subset of their BRI initiative. So it is their interest is also in there. And similarly, North-South Bridge of Russia, Russia also have their interest in Pakistan. So now, we have to similarly landlocked Iran also have their interest in Pakistan to come out. So we have to cash into these countries' interest in Pakistan now and properly. We have to play our cards properly with them. So we, in the very short time, with this 4 or 5 years, GREF, because everybody was on board and they were very much supportive, GREF had a very good, you can say, some very good achievements. We had our first achievement when we managed all these countries to come in and to Pakistan in 2017. There was the first parliamentary speakers conference held in Islamabad. And then it was made a forum, a continuous forum. And the second conference was in 2018 was in Tehran. Third was in Ankara. And the next one was supposed to be in Moscow and then Beijing. But because of Corona, it got delayed. So I hope by next year, maybe it will happen there. And we have also conducted webinars with these 3 countries, very senior officials from these countries. They participated and presented the viewpoint of their government. For example, in the case of Iran, the highest ranking officer that was the advisor to their foreign minister, Ambassador Shakri was there, and he was nominated by the government, and then there were senior executive from the Studies Institute and one very senior businessman. So they all, you know, they are all taking very keen interest into this new idea. Or and similarly, when we were with the Chinese, the ambassador was here. They nominated a person who was the chairman of Sky News Network in China, Beijing. So he was with us from there. And from Russia, we had people from Oriental, the head of Oriental, the first section of Oriental Studies Institute. Then their embassy staff, their diplomats were there, and there were Dilawai Roos, which is the top 100 businessmen who are the advisors to the presidency of the Russian Federation. Their foreign affairs head was there, director was there with us. So I said that this idea has been very, very positively taken by these countries, the other member countries. So that was our very big success, that we had been able to convince them. So similarly, we had an initiative. We launched an initiative, the post-corona shared economic recovery, where we wanted that all these 5 countries should join hands, join their resources, their experiences, to come out of the economic crisis due to the COVID-19. So we had a very good webinar on that, and we had very good suggestions and proposals from all the participants from these countries. So that was also a big success for us. And similarly, we have other webinars and seminars with these countries. So we are in touch with these countries, and they are very positive. Now, the second series of webinars, which we have started on the previous ones were mostly more towards the economic side. Now, this one is more onto the strategic side. That is the geostrategic, looking at the geostrategic scenario around the region. And I hope you people will be discussing on that and giving us. Our main aim of this seminar webinar is to find out how best Pakistan can cash this new grouping of this China, Russia, Iran, and Turkey in favor of Pakistan under the new strategic scenario. We know that Israel is now sitting in UAE, from where we are getting most of our energy resources are coming from UAE, from Gulf. So if Israel is there, obviously we are expecting now. We can say that there is a day will come, which is not far, that they will try to squeeze us by restricting or by hampering the energy supplies, the oil supplies, the gas supplies from the Gulf to Pakistan, to teach us a lesson if we don't listen to them. So we have to find alternate energy resources or sources from within the region and from the neighbors. So this is one thing. Secondly, you have also seen that the US is pushing for Indo-Pacific, new group, the accord which is there, which means, if you see all of it, which means that they are encircling. Actually, they are encircling China and Russia from coming into warm waters into Indian Ocean or getting short route. But in that same way, they are encircling Pakistan and Iran and all of us. So we will be. It is not that simple that they will do it. Yeah. So this is these are the issues which we are going to face. So we want to discuss. We have also launched an initiative for regional energy grid. So this type of initiative, we have launched several initiatives. So we have also launched initiative of barter trade chamber, which means that instead of having trade with these countries in euro or dollar or any currency, let's do it without currency and a barter mode. So these are the initiatives which GREF has launched, and we would like in this webinar, we would like your opinion and your concern, your views, that how best we can get benefited from this. Looking at what all is happening, we have FATF on us, we have IMF on our resources sitting there. So looking at all this holistic scenario and the macro picture, how best we can come out of it. So with this thing, I once again thank you very much, And I hand over to our Chairman, General Secretary. Sir, now it's yours, sir. So please, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Osman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I will not be boring you all that much with preliminaries, so I'd like to get down to the crux of today's main activity. Through this series of webinars, the Golden Rain Economic Forum seeks to generate a discussion on the effects of the evolving regional developments around Pakistan and how Pakistan can adjust to the evolving opportunities in the short and mid-term for its strategic security. The discussions are intended to draw relevance from the following developments and come up with viable recommendations for Pakistan to adjust its national security policies in order to take advantage of the changing environment. And what are the following developments? You are all well aware of it, being not only experts, but students also of international relations and political science. Mainly are the effects of the worldwide economic downturn and slowdown on Pakistan, the evolving environment in Afghanistan, ongoing confrontation between China and India, Indian government belligerence against Kashmiris in particular and Muslims in general in India, Pakistan's relations with the Arab world in light of increasing Indian, US and Israeli influence, Pakistan's relations with Iran and Russia, and the possibility of increased economic interaction with Iran and Russia, the threat of FATF and other similar regimes. Today's webinar is focused on what adjustments Pakistan needs to make in its national security policy in order to draw maximum benefit from the changing environment, especially from the Golden Ring countries, namely Russia, China, Iran, and Turkey. For this purpose, we have a panel of very eminent speakers who have been involved in issues of national security at the highest levels. Our first speaker for today will be Lieutenant General Naeem Khalid Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz military, retired. He is a former Secretary of Defense and was the Minister of Defense in the last interim government. General Lodi joined the army in 1974. He has a Bachelor's of Engineering degree. He is a graduate of the Command and Staff College, Quetta, National Defense University, Islamabad, and holds a Master's in International Relations. I will not go into a lot of more details, but he has had an illustrious career, including the important appointments of directing staff at National Defense College, Commander Corps Engineers, Director General Engineering Directorate, Director General Staff Duties, General Officer Commanding Bahawalpur, Engineer-in-Chief, and also the Corps Commander in Bahawalpur. General Naeem Lodi has also remained the Chief Executive and Managing Director of Fauji Fertilizer Company and FFC Energy Limited. He also, like I mentioned earlier, served as the Defense Secretary and was appointed the Minister of Defense. He participates as a defense analyst in different TV channels and contributes regularly in national and international newspapers. Over to you, General Lodi, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thanks a lot, GREF and UMT for arranging this, I would say, interactive session. And thank you very much, General Sikandar Afzal and Dr. Abid Saab, Sherwani Saab. taking advantage, ladies and gentlemen, taking advantage of the level of intellect which I see, and I've been told that students from IR and similar disciplines are there. So what I intend doing is that instead of giving details of the things, I would just speak out certain pointers. And then because the things will be well understood, I'm sure. Of course, if there's any further the required more details, we can do it in the question answer session. So first of all, I've written a fact sheet sort of thing, which I would like to place before you, and then see that if there's any disagreement, then we can talk about it. If you look at the global scenario as the things are moving, the first thing is, I think we all understand that geoeconomics, geopolitics, and geostrategy, these are intertwined. So if you are looking for one success in one only, neglecting the two, probably you will not get there. As we are this forum and UMT also, you might be interested in the economic progress of Pakistan or other peace and prosperity in Pakistan, overall national policy in Pakistan, unless and until we have a coordinated, well-jointed foreign policy, finance policy, and defense policy, reinforcing each other. Only then we will be able to accomplish this. Otherwise, if we just pay more attention to one and neglect the other two, probably will not be able to move further. Now, what is happening at the global level is that a superpower is trying to prolong its hegemony and control, calling the two threatening powers as revisionist China and resurging Russia. Resurging Russia is understood. Why do they call China the revisionist China? Because they expect, they take it as a threat, as a matter of fact, that probably China is trying to revise the national and global setting, whether it is a global political setting or global economic setting. And so we talked about it before also, maybe we'll go into more details. US still enjoys edge in cutting edge technologies like space technology, internet, GPS, etc. Although the alternatives are coming up, we are aware of that, but still I think they are on top of it. And even the world economic order, the hegemony of dollar is still there. It has not been broken. And political control of large swaths of the world, which whatever the techniques they use, I'll not go into the details. And what do we have at the regional level? Indian strategic shift towards US camp, weakening relations with China rapidly and with Russia slowly. Number of strategic pacts and MOUs between US and India, we are aware of it. There are about 12 of them. And the most recent one is either being signed today or tomorrow. So they are collaborating in intelligence sharing, in logistic, help to each other, interoperability. Now this intelligence sharing and interoperability may look very benign words, but they mean a lot. They are very deep, they have very deep connotations. India is also, they are both of them actually, are also part of Indo-Pacific, this new security paradigm known as Quad Plus. We know that Japan, Australia, and US, India, and some other countries. Then we are aware of the Indo-China standoff. It has got its own dynamics. I will not go into the details. And Indian uneasy relations with all their neighbors. And we know it. Now, what is the Indian situation? If we just focus, they have got an embarrassment at Ladakh. They got a bloody nose in a skirmish with PF, unable to subdue Kashmiris so far, and problems with their minorities, diminishing role in Afghanistan, deep economic impact due to this pandemic, and forces are demoralized because of various reasons. And they are in a state of, you can say, injured vanity. Now, Pakistani situation, again, not very rosy. deep internal strife, a dismal economic situation, damaging inflation, successes in Afghan peace efforts, but not being able to leverage to our best advantage. Pandemic fairly controlled, worsening law and order situation, as we can see it. CPEC, with a great potential, is moving but sluggishly, as I see it. And nuclear parity is not being leveraged properly, in my opinion. With India, as far as Kashmir is concerned, we know that it has been fairly internationalized because of Pakistan's efforts also. No let-up in Indian atrocities as far as Indian occupied Kashmir is concerned. Pakistan not succeeding in giving any worthwhile support, to me, more like a bystander. Forgive me for that. Kashmiris alone are not in a position to face such a large army. Indians slowly but surely are consuming Indian occupied Kashmir. Now, if we look at the future of the region, I think we are, of course, we are talking about the 5 countries. We have good relations, excellent relations with China and some improving relations with Russia. A sort of, you can say, stalemate with Iran, good relations with Turkey. But as far as Indo-Pak relations are concerned, we are in a state of confrontation rather than cooperation. And it is likely to stay like that unless some big strategic shift takes place in the region. India can do little with China, but can attempt to redeem its honor by trying to humiliate Pakistan. Risky, but comparatively less risky. India cannot digest the occupied Kashmir without discrediting Pakistan in a big way. And they understand that. US being India's strategic partner, is apparently showing its satisfaction on Pakistan's assistance in Afghan peace. But in my opinion, deep down blames Pakistan for unsuccessful venture in Afghanistan. Pakistani leadership is busy in creating a good boy image and accommodation, touching at times the boundaries of appeasement. Deterrence has been diluted due to neo-normal situation along line of control and elsewhere. Keeping all this in view, I think this region is likely to witness a limited but intense military showdown in near to mid-future. And okay, if it will not be a military showdown, it will be a war-like situation. And we know that in hybrid war, kinetic is not the only option. However, if we can succeed in redeeming own sovereignty and run our external and internal affairs in line with modern nation states concept, maybe we can avoid the worst case scenario. And once I say that we are not really a totally sovereign state, none of the states are, we all understand as far as today's world is concerned, but we have become less and less sovereign because of certain internal factors. Because, you know, the definition of sovereignty, and all the students sitting here of international relations understand, if you can make laws that support your interest, and if you can implement those laws, then you are sovereign. But if you cannot make laws, and if you cannot, or if you have laws and you cannot implement them, then there's a problem with sovereignty. So what we need to do, I think the first is that recognize that our natural foreign policy direction should be east, and then diligently work for that. Leverage on strategic location and influence on Afghan situation to pursue on interests. In my opinion, Afghan peace talks from hence onward should be held at Islamabad and not Doha. Recognize that IMF, World Bank, FATF, etc. are political tools in the hands of world powers, and we need to get free of their claws. recognize the importance of CPEC, not only for us, but for the entire region, and act accordingly. Evolve a political system that creates harmony, efficiency, and delivers. Stop being defensive, stop taking refuge behind weak economy, and do what is to be done to fight back hybrid war effectively. In the end, I would urge to revisit and reconsider certain myths, and this is especially for our students who are listening to us. Myth number 1, all political problems can be resolved by table negotiations. Wrong. Myth number 2, without strong economy, we cannot think of fighting back. Wrong. Can be proved historically. Myth number 3, moral, diplomatic, and political pressure on India will change their attitude. Wrong. Thank you very much. आपका माइक नहीं है सर.
आपका माइक ऑफ है.
Sorry, my apologies. Thank you very much, General Lodi, and I'm sure with the thoughts that you have on the standard myths of international relations, it would be very, very important discussion for the participants from the department. I'm also acknowledge the fact that you also recognize, as like GREF does, the importance of looking east and closer to home than to the standard areas that we have been interacting with. Not that we can neglect them, we do not count them out, but we have to, slightly refocus our orientation. And you are right that we have to leverage whatever environments are developing around us to our advantage instead of their turning into a disadvantage. And for that, we have to be proactive and not keep waiting for the things to become what they become. And then we say, now what do we do? Thank you very much, General Lodi. Our next speaker is Lieutenant General Asif Yassin Malik, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military, retired. He is former Defense Secretary also. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the 4th generation soldier who joined the army in 1975 as an infantry officer. He is a graduate of Pakistan Army Staff and Command College. Has done his master's from National Defense University, Islamabad, and also has a master's degree in Strategic Resource Management from National Defense University, USA, that is Washington, DC. He has also acted in a joint capacity by serving as the Director General Joint Intelligence and Information Operations in the Joint Staff Headquarters. The General has commanded a strike infantry division and 11 corps located at Peshawar, spearheading the stabilizing operations in FATA and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The General led operations against terrorist activity, militancy, insurgents, and criminal groups. He was also responsible for major rehabilitation efforts after successful counter-insurgency and anti-terrorism operations in border and other affected areas of the country. This included de-radicalization, infrastructure restoration, health and education services, and livelihood program. He was appointed Secretary of Defense in 2012 and served for 2 years. All yours, General Asif, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, my gratitude for considering me worthy of speaking today on a very important subject. I must congratulate GREF for evolving a very unique concept of establishing a think tank specifically designed and structured to meet the emerging challenges faced by Pakistan, particularly with reference to its relations with 4 critical countries in the region. The Golden Ring countries have been rightly identified because of their geosecurity and geoeconomic significance on global as well as regional spectrum. Let me begin by bringing out a paradigm shift in the global dynamics of security over the last 100 years. Since World War I, the world was tackling real or created security threats by operating security alliances and pacts. In my opinion, this was primarily due to insecurity of bigger states, as alliances and pacts created a herd mentality which made them feel secure. Secondly, it gave them some sort of moral support by taking a crowd along. The best example is the coalition of the willing against Iraq, where none of the participants had any dispute with Iraq, yet they joined the invasion to justify US aggression. Now we see almost the demise of global and regional security pacts and alliances. SEATO and CENTO died in the 70s, Warsaw Pact ceased with the demise of Soviet Union, and NATO seems to be breathing its last with the reduction of US contribution and European liberalist policies. After 100 years, states are left to guard their own borders, and state-to-state conflict is emerging back as a design of security. The next paradigm shift has emerged after overcoming the use of terrorism by states as an instrument of policy and non-states and organizations as a weapon of convenience. Except for some pockets, terrorism has become a fringe strategy or tactics so far. The third change has been in shift in priority from geostrategic security to geoeconomic security. The concept of military invasion is being gradually overtaken by economic subjugation or paralysis. So economics has become the real lead instrument duly supported by a credible military deterrence. Based on the aforementioned scenario, Pakistan has also to set its course to survive, rather emerge as a positive state in the Committee of Nations to bring honor and pride to its citizens. Today, pride is no more in the number of ICBMs or tanks the state possesses, rather in the per capita income its citizens live by. In this context, we can divide the zone into regional and global spheres. In the regional zone, the Golden Ring states emerge as decisive and important. So Pakistan has to restructure its national security policy according to new geostrategic environment. Since it is an evolutionary process, so ideally it should start with selected states which are better, which none of them are better than the Golden Ring 5. I will start with China. In this context, we must try and understand the Chinese mindset and approach, which is not very easy. Yet, if we trace the last 7 decades, we can see the amazing rise from ashes and drugs. Just 30 years ago, no one could imagine what China is today. It was a very simple path that China treaded. First, internal politico-economic strength and security, and then projection abroad. It is self-explanatory, so I will straightway come to the recent Sino-Indian clashes. In my opinion, most of us fail to grasp the whole design of the Chinese. If we analyze the backdrop of the Indo-US Strategic Accord, we will realize that the Chinese challenged this arrangement, and the US muted reaction during the days of the conflict exposed its value and strategic worthiness vis-a-vis China on the regional platform. The very design of containment of China was challenged to its own script. The reason was the economic stranglehold China has established over the US and its ability to manipulate it according to its wishes. China also established this unchallenged military supremacy in Asia by this action and South China Sea assertion. This situation has very clearly overtones for Pakistan and makes clear the path we need to follow. And furthermore, this brings out the security dimensions of CPEC, that it is not only an economic corridor, but also a security assurance instrument for Pakistan. Turkey has been very close and a critical friend of Pakistan from its very independence. Like China, Turkey is also asserting itself in a new design and creating a new niche for itself, not only in West Asia, but also in Europe. In addition to rising GDP, it is also emerging as a credible security player in the region, as is evident from its role in Syrian conflict. Similarly, it is finding a new footprint in Gulf by getting close to some states like Qatar and Kuwait and other states not very close to Saudi Arabia. It is also set to challenge the Saudi domination in the Gulf. Turkey not only has a trade potential, but has a reckonable defense industry, which has the potential for close collaboration and cooperation for Pakistan. In any case, 2020 would bring a sea change about Turk-Arab relations after the expiry of the 1921 agreement by Kemal Atatürk. For this, I would suggest that MOFA has to start studying the post-2021 Arab-Turk environment and evolve a fresh approach in the coming years. Of all the golden rings, Iran is the most critical and difficult to manage. Iran has a very sensitive situation internally, globally, and regionally. Globally, it is facing sanctions, and regionally, it is involved in a sectarian struggle with most of its neighbors. Pakistan has implications on both the planes after it allowed a sectarian strife between Iran and Saudi Arabia on its soil while being its immediate neighbor, has immense trade potential which cannot be exploited due to sanctions. Our 20% or so Shia population and rest of the right-wing Sunni clergy are vulnerable to exploitation, while our energy needs can be easily met by Iran. Again, the situation in Afghanistan requires both the countries to adopt a synchronized approach, without which the post-peace accord environment may put us at cross paths. Finally, the Chinese package of $400 billion for Iran in next 20 years puts Pakistan and Iran's interest in the same frame, which could be exploited for better Pak-Iran relations. Lastly, but not definitely the least, Russia. Like China, Russia has also put itself on a new path in the global and regional security dimension. Russia started asserting its security strength by capturing Crimea and domination of Black Sea and North Atlantic. Closer to us, it came in forcefully in the Syrian conflict and challenged the US-West campaign against Syria. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we have to reorientate our policies on mutual as well as multilateral planes, as Russia and China are following a coordinated approach in ECO and SCO, and both are vying for greater regional influence, yet not in conflict with each other. We have to be mindful of Russia's historical relations with India and Afghanistan, and in this context, we must have a consultative and cooperative approach about our Afghan policy with the Russians. As far as India is concerned, we should not insist on the Russians on either or policy rather than an interaction relation and create our own space within the Russian policy structure. For that, we have to create an interest-based Pak-Russia environment. Some policy guidelines. Having dwelled at country-specific environment, we can formulate guidelines for our policymakers, and I'll just give the salient measures. Put the domestic house in order, for which there are three essentials. Number one, governance. Number two, governance. And number three, governance. Declare an economic emergency to create a positive economic environment as an incentive for foreign investors, thereby evolving an interest-based relationship with those countries. Having created stable economic conditions, we should establish a preferential niche for Golden Ring countries, for which our economic and social policies have a lot of space. For a preferential status within Golden Ring, we have to move on a bilateral as well as multilateral spheres. Bilateral should be interest-based with economic and security ties in lead. While in multilateral arena, we must play an aggressive role in organizations like ECO and SCO. While the prospects of revival of RCD may be evaluated and discussed with the stakeholders, our reliance on Gulf Arab countries has to be reduced gradually. We must have a crisis management cell in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which should constantly study and evolve worst-case scenarios like sanctions, etc. We luckily have had a good experience of sanctions for nearly 11 years in 80s and 90s and should be able to fare well in such eventualities. Activities like military maneuvers should be done on multilateral as well as bilateral basis. Peaceful Afghanistan should be our serious priority and should be ensured at all costs as much as we can do. We should reduce hostilities with India and bring the relationship to a minimum workable level, nothing more and nothing less. And finally, we must keep the West and USA in general good humor to ensure positivity in relationship. There was a question at the end about the media of the Golden Ring countries. I am afraid our media has serious issues. Number one being low standard of education and general illiteracy. So unless our media is made a bit literate and intellectually deep, I don't think so we will find space in international arena, even within the Golden Ring countries. Having said that, there is no harm to increase maybe media cooperation on bilateral basis with these countries, because I am afraid these 5 countries cannot create a new organization, be it media or be it politics. So that was all from my side, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Asif. I mean, we really appreciate the new input you are providing us. And first of all, I appreciate the fact that you also think on the lines that the Golden Ring think tank is thinking, that there needs to be closer interaction at home. It's not that we cannot rule out our association with others, but we need to have new venues to look at. I am grateful also for the specific directions you gave, especially with regards to Russia, of creating our own space within the domain of the Russian thinking and their policy making. And you're correct. This is what we also found when we were interacting with our Russian counterparts at the think tank and policy level. And you also emphasized it, and that is also the gist of what Golden Ring is all about. That is that it is economy, economy, economy. That the focus, and like Jan Lodi earlier also mentioned, I mean, it is the interlinkages of all these 3 which is now, and the economy is a significant part of geostrategy, and it needs to be dealt that way. I know that it is 4 p.m. and it is the end of our time, but no, I will take the liberty of extending the time so that we certainly allow our third speaker to have his say, and also give a little extra time, and I'm sure these speakers, unless they have prior commitments, will bear with me. I apologize for this delay that we took longer in the introduction. But without wasting any more time, our third speaker for today is Lieutenant General Nasir Janjua. I hope and I spoke correctly.
Yes, sir.
Hilal-e-Imtiaz military, retired and formal national security advisor. General Janjua was commissioned in the infantry in March 79, is a graduate of Command and Staff College and received his master's degree from National Defense University, Islamabad. He has served in Cambodia, commanded a regiment in the northern areas of Pakistan, a brigade in Siachen, and led the counter-terrorism operation Rahe-Haq while commanding an infantry division in Swat. And when I talk about Swat, I'm sure one of the participants who asked a similar question about Swat and all, we will organize a session with General Janjua for the sake of all the other participants of the department to talk more about Swat and the region. General Janjua has also been the Chief of Staff of a strike corps. A strike corps is the one which is designed to cross the border and not only fight a defensive battle, but fight an offensive battle. Has been Director Military Operations, Chief of Staff of Southern Command, that is Quetta, Vice Chief of General Staff, and the President, National Defense University. His last position was Commander Southern Command and commanding a very large formation of Pakistan Army in Balochistan, where he played a vital role in eradicating terrorism, extremism, militancy, and insurgency in Pakistan's largest province. One thing I may mention here of significance was it was during his time that a large number of separatist flags were brought down voluntarily by the people because of his interactive session with the locals. In recognition of his long service, he was appointed National Security Advisor in 2015, and as the NSA played a very proactive role with reference to national security, regaining mutual trust between Pakistan and all the regional countries. General Janjua, all yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an elaborate introduction. Let me begin by thanking all of you, by thanking Golden Ring Economic Forum, UMT, the departments of political science, international relations, the students, everyone, for inviting me over. It was very enlightening to hear General Naeem Lodi, General Asif Yasin Malik, and not only that they have experience, but they have also been practitioners. And Hasnan Saab, thank you very much for your opening. As of today, if you really ask me, what is challenging, what is more worrisome is our internal situation, unfortunately. And we need to redeem internally, and we need to solidify internally. We need to soothe internally. But it's very important subject today at hand that we have to discuss the regional geostrategic challenges, opportunities for Pakistan. And we also have to identify the opportunities. Very elaborate speeches have already been made. I would not like to repeat. There have been very cogent suggestions on the table by eminent speakers. Just because we also have students listening to us, so since we are also investing in the future, therefore, little bit of reflection. First of all, when we want to talk of regional geostrategic challenges, it would be pertinent to briefly discuss first global geostrategic challenges, as they both have direct and indirect linkages. And at the global construct, the evolving world shows that the unipolarity is under stress. Unipolarity is faced with geostrategic, geopolitical, and geoeconomic challenges. Unipolarity seems to be withering away into multipolarity. It even seems to be transiting into evident bipolarity. Now, the whole process of unipolarity to multipolarity and evident bipolarity has made the world more competitive than cooperative. Though, as of today, the world is still largely focusing and expressing deep allegiance with unipolarity, but the process of reorientation, process of realignment, process of recarving and readjustments has already commenced. And at the global level, the new lines have been drawn. Some lines are very clear. Some lines are still hazy. Some lines are quite woolly. So that is how it creates a strategic haze that we as Pakistan have to look through this and envision a future which is worthy of us. Now let's draw closer to the direct and indirect linkages of global and regional chessboard. I feel that at global level, geoeconomics predicts that the ongoing century belongs to Asia. General Naim Lodi explained it very well. Now let me follow by saying, I repeat, geoeconomics predicts that the ongoing century belongs to Asia, which is unacceptable to geostrategic and geopolitical construct. Geostrategic and geopolitics have become vulnerable if the geoeconomics slips out of hand. So all three have to be together. So geoeconomics is altering, it is finding its way somewhere else. So to retain geoeconomics, it is now to mitigate the challenges. And today, geostrategic and geopolitics affairs are now contesting. Hence, the strategies like containment of China. It is actually containment of geoeconomics. Containment of China, since it was very obvious, so it was renamed as Pivot to Asia. That also became very evident. So it was called as Rebalancing Asia. So that was also very obvious. It is now called as Indo-Pacific policy or Indo-Pacific strategy. The basic concept of this is to contain, retain, limit China and resurging Russia geographically. Because if they can be contained in the strategic backyard, they will never be able to challenge. They will never be able to be a superpower. So actually it is here that our challenges reside as a smaller and a poor country. Now, if we just see, we are not making any assumption. We are quoting here the US strategic strategy, security strategy, in which China and Russia have been declared as revisionist states and strategic challengers. Next is Iran is declared as a rogue state. India is declared as a strategic partner and net security provider. And Pakistan is mentioned supporting the terrorists and terrorist groups, though we are improving in Afghanistan and it is being redeemed. Now, what does it employ? I want to talk to the students actually. That a great power rivalry has come to Asia, where we are co-located with China and Russia. Now, anything against China, anything against Russia, equally affects us. It so happens. The third largest country of the region, which is India, which has become the strategic partner and net security provider in the region for US, when it is prepared, when it is nurtured, when it is supported to be a counterweight to China, it becomes a heavyweight for us. So anything against China and Russia affects us. Empowering India affects us. Next is Iran, is a rogue state, as per US. Next is Afghanistan, is marred with the war. Since last 40 years, children have seen nothing but war. And as you know, the Muslim world is also in a turmoil. It's withering because they are failing to withstand the ongoing design against them, the original conflict. So the region has reasons to go to war, including this greater power rivalry. The disputes like Kashmir, there's no dispute resolution mechanism. Pakistan is over-relying on its nuclear capability because there's a huge conventional asymmetry between India and Pakistan. On the contrary, India is trying to keep the war alive despite being nuclear. The sense of responsibility seems to be, non-existent. And India is projecting, rather vindicating now, through which it gains. It's a two-front situation. China and Pakistan. So everyone feels that China has done great recently. I feel that it goes to India's way. It vindicates India's rhetoric through which it gained. Now, India will gain from US, from West, from its public by projecting China and Pakistan as a two-way, a two-front situation. India is mishandling Kashmir. So the region, despite being the future world, the future century, is very fragile. Its stability, instability, and security architecture is under stress. I would say that given these challenges at hand, opportunities are there. They're very much there. But we are into a transition. We are into a transition when the world is changing, world is evolving. And if we become fast, the part of this divide, which is ongoing, we will be taking sides. We will be part of this division, which perhaps will not augur well. I would first like to say that let's settle and soothe internally, because the political stability is the first need of the hour. Then I would like to say, avert the danger of evolving world, evolving competition, because we are its incidental victim. There's a greater incompatibility externally and internally. We need to enable ourselves to embrace this change. I would say our largest opportunity resides in connectivity of Asia. Our opportunity lies in well-being of our people, enabling them to embrace the change. Our opportunities lie in our economic capacity, in our industrial capacity, in our private sector, where we are not focusing. We are barely meeting the power requirement. Look at the cost of production. We want to do our business, but what are we producing? So I would come back and say, don't fall prey to hard lines which have been drawn of the evolving world. Don't be part of the division still. Hold on. Don't rush. And similarly, in the Muslim world, also don't be part of a divide. Be a balancing force. You have to take care of them in coming times. Help bring lasting peace in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has become not a barrier for itself, but a barrier for us, barrier for Asia. Afghanistan should be used as heart of Asia. Afghanistan should not be a barrier, but a bridge. That is how we have to think about it. Kashmir, Jan Naim Lodi has said, Jan Naim Lodi has been very clear. Somehow, I think, let's prevent economic meltdown first, because this is leading us nowhere. I thank you very much. Since you have indicated about the time, I am grateful, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jal Nasir. It has been, in my honest opinion, I thought the three military speakers speaking today, there would be a lot of talk of war and fireworks. But for the consumption of the students, you realize what I must point out is that military men who have seen it and done it are the proponents of peace all over the world, because they have seen what you and others sitting at home have not seen. And while we are and always will be ready to lay down our lives for the country and the nation, but war is not a solution. And as was pointed out by practically all the three speakers, The world is changing around us and we need to be very, very cognizant of it. We need to look at interconnecting our interests with our neighbors, and especially our bigger neighbors, but not falling into the trap of, again, alliances. We need to keep our interests, our national interest first and foremost. We need to focus more on our economy, our industrial capacity, the well-being, which will lead obviously to the well-being of the people. And as the people become more settled, we find that the frustration dies down and well-being settles in. I know that we are running short on time, or we have already overshot time, but I would still, if people would like to, I'm open to questions. Please indicate who would like to ask a question so that the same individual is given the mic and his mic is released. And when you are asking a question, please do be courteous to name yourself. I find Ali Raza raising in hand. Ali, please, you have the mic. Please identify yourself so that when you, and please, if you are asking a particular speaker, please name the speaker.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Ali Raza, and it's my 6th semester in UMT doing international relations. Sir, I have a question to Sir General Naeem Lodi. He talked about 3 myths, the last but not the least one was moral, diplomatic, and political pressure wouldn't change the mind of India. So, are we having any other strategies, tactics, and other plan to change the mind? And as he also said that we have internationalized this issue. So what Pakistan is doing diplomatically, and as he mentioned, we don't have any diplomatic and political pressure. And so what could we do in other sense, like in strategy and other tactics? So what do you say, sir?
Thank you very much. I think what I'll do is that first I'll try to list few actions which in my opinion are possible, and all of them are not acceptable to everyone. Some of them, they are controversial, but I always say that some discussion should be done on these. You have to make some ripples. You have to we have done well. The first thing we must understand is we have done well as far as diplomacy is concerned. Prime Minister's speech and the follow-up thing, and now the world is talking about Kashmir, especially about the human atrocities which are being carried out. They have thrown out Simla agreement. We have not talked about it. We must discuss whether adhering to Simla agreement is still in our interest or not. I always say that we should ask UN to conduct a partial plebiscite in Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir, which can be later extended to the rest of the Kashmir whenever it is possible, so that we can make them as part of our country properly, with a condition that whenever total plebiscite will take place, again the situation can be reviewed. We have not done well in lawfare. We know that many journals they have talked, Indian journals, they have talked about even up to the extent of raping the Kashmiri girls and women. We know that what their Prime Minister and Defense Minister, they have been talking every time, attacking Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan openly. Then as far as one of the UN, I'm trying to remember that, I think it is 2233. There's one UN resolution, not Security Council resolution, General Assembly resolution, which says that occupied people have the right to take up arms in their defense, and other nations are allowed to help them even in provision of arms. You can go through that. find out through Google, and you will find that there's a UN resolution in that. We can at least show some preparations for war, other than, of course, our standing army is there. But we can start training our youth, saying that because India is saying again and again that they will attack, so here we are training our youth for defense whenever it is required. Then whatever Indians are doing to us, we have all the right to do to them. And what are they doing to us? I need not go into the details. You know that Kulbhushan is here with us. You have seen what is happening in Balochistan. You have seen what is happening in erstwhile FATA. So I do not have to go into those details. And also one thing I would like to add, that whenever you say that you have given a befitting reply, it should mean that they should not carry out the same action again. That is a befitting reply. Saying every day that we are giving a befitting reply is at least not acceptable to me. I do not know, other journalists are sitting here. So I've given you some of the things. We can have a government in exile and so many other things also. Of course, we have pros and cons for all these things. But I think there are, at least in my vocabulary, 9 or 11 steps we can take. At least we can start discussing, and whatever we can do, we might go for it. And we know what is hybrid war. You know what is hybrid war. So kinetic is only one of these strands. What about the all other strands? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Lodi.
Thank you,
Do
sir.
we have anybody else who would like to ask a question? Please raise your hand. In that case, we are coming to 4:30, and I would like to especially thank.
Can I have a question? I think I need you to unmute you. If we have another 2 minutes, I'll be very quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please,
okay. I'm Dr. Fatma Sajjad.
Dr.
Okay, I'm going to be as quick as possible. I'm assistant professor at Department of Political Science and International Relations. My subject is peace education. So as a peace educationist, my concern is I really totally agree. We need to have some regional thinking, regional bloc, regional economic bloc, regional strategic bloc. But I think we cannot develop fully and we cannot free ourselves from the Western influence unless we have better ideas. And for better ideas, education is extremely important. So I have 2 short questions. Do we have a development vision of our own, which is different from the development vision of the West, which focuses solely on economy? But I think our own vision should have things which go beyond economy and beyond military strategy and all these things. I think we need to have a vision of our own, and we need to think over that vision. And secondly, I want to ask whether our education, where do you place education in your development vision? And I think because that is extremely important, as long as we have the best universities in the West, I think they lead in some way, they will be able to maintain that. So I think one thing which is very important is to work in the field of education, make education a priority. And I think when we have better thinking patterns and thinking patterns of our own, rather than just focusing on the ideas, balance of power and all those ideas which are coming from the West, unless we have thinking of our own, I don't think we can really fully develop or free ourselves from the Western influence. So I think we need to place education at the center of all this, and maybe we need to think about development vision of our own as well. So what would be your take on that?
Any of my friends would like to?
I think I would just say one sentence, that I totally and fully agree with Dr. Sahiba.
May I say something?
Yes.
Ji, Asif, please.
Dr. Sahiba, you have touched the raw nerve of the nation. My question is to you. Does Pakistan have a vision? Name a Pakistani leader who has a vision for Pakistan. You know, so unless you have a vision, you can't go anywhere. Unless your leaders have the ability to see behind the wall, you are not going anywhere. You'll stand behind this side of the wall and keep trying. Now, why education has not been encouraged in Pakistan? I have been a great proponent of education. My analysis is that this political system, it's irrespective of who is in power, is not conducive for education because it runs on a 5-year cycle. And if I am the prime minister or whatever chief minister, and if I go for education, education cycle is a 10-year or a 20-year cycle. So I only do those things which are doable in 5 years. And if they are brick and mortar, if they are, you know, something that I can show around to the illiterate population, which also sees those things which I want to show them. So therefore, this is a very serious question. And I'll just quote one example and then stop here. During General Musharraf's time, nothing about a military ruler or that way. He had under Dr. Atta launched HEC, and about 5,000 students were studying abroad. And lo and behold, the first budget presented in 2008, by the time the budget was presented, next day I received calls from children in Germany and France and where not, who were doing PhDs, and suddenly their stipends and everything was stopped. So I called somebody in HEC, and he said that the major budget cut in the budget was on HEC. So this is the question, and I think you as you know, teachers should maybe look at the resolution of this problem. Thank you.
Yes, okay. I do accept the responsibility, yes. But I think whenever we are working on a forum which is working for the development, it's very important to identify the people from other sectors as well, especially from education as well, that maybe together we can have a dialogue on things, and maybe we can develop a vision from different perspectives. That is just a suggestion. And but thank you for a very enlightening talk, and it was wonderful to know about this regional block. That is very important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatma. Thank you so much. We have two more people who are interested in asking questions. I will invite Ehsanullah first, and then Abdul Rahman, please. Ehsanullah. Wa alaikum assalam.
I hope you all are feeling well. So my question is for General Asif, and the question is about geopolitics. So if we look towards our situation in Pakistan, they are not, I mean, it's not well. Like we are having country religion situations which is not being well. So how
Ehsanullah, sorry, आपको मैं cut कर रहा हूँ. You are not very clear. Please make an effort to speak clearly so that either move the mic closer so that we can all hear you clearly so that we can answer you. Ehsanullah, आपने mic, you have switched off your mic, please. You were asking a question, your mic has been switched off.
The voice is clear now, sir.
G, it is much better.
Yes, my question was for General Asif, and the question was about the geopolitics, and I was talking about that if we see and if we check our country, Pakistan, the situation is not well. So if we check towards our country, religions and languages, I mean, they are not good. So how it could be better for our Pakistan?
I will request one of the panelists to answer, but I will just add, your question basically focused on that the situation in Pakistan is not good and what leverages we can pull. and use to improve the situation. In simple words, yes, the situation is not good. Had the situation be good, we would be discussing about something else. And the purpose of this webinar is, this is the first of a series of 8 in which we will have experts from all fields coming in one by one and deliberating upon it. And the idea being that none of them can give you an optimal solution. A solution comes from a consensus of thought processes which will come in. What we will conclude as the GREF at the end of these 8 webinars would be shared not only with the government, but by other think tanks, also encouraging future more discussion, interaction, and we would encourage that it would then become word of town and then can be translated. That is why we, apart from calling ourselves a think tank, we also call ourselves a lobbying group. So that when we interact with people, we try and tell them this is something which is doable. And it is with the effort of all such people that we will come to a point where we will be able to, come up with solutions or recommendations which would help in improving the situation in Pakistan. So I would request you to keep joining us in all the webinars, and you will hear people talking about how to improve energy security, how to talk about food security, and so on and so forth. But nobody can give you one answer.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ji. May I request Abdul Rahman? And we have one last individual, Sidra, who has asked for permission for a question. And after that, we will end the session today. Abdul Rahman, your floor.
Yes, sir. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Sir, my question is from Lieutenant General Nasir Janjua. Sir, in the light of GREF, how Pakistan will navigate its relations with Russia, especially in the backdrop of close economic and military cooperation between India and Russia?
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
You are, sir.
Okay. We all understand that we have a history of our relationship with Russia. And if you look at it, we are very proud of what happened. If you look at from their side, maybe it is not the same. So both of the nations have to walk over their past. And I have been to Russia 3 times. We have discussed, we have participated into a lot of interactive sessions. We have shared the vision of the future world with them, and they understand, and I find that now they are willing to walk over the past. Hence, you see a lot of improvement coming around, almost in every sphere. We have had joint trainings. We are into economic activities. We are visiting each other. So gradually it is improving. Now again, there's a history of a relationship between India and Russia. And they have had very good relationship. And they have continued to build on that. So we are actually a new country in. We have also started doing very well. I think nations act in their own interests. So let's, for the time being, not look at the India-Russia relationship grudgingly. we should not be envious unnecessarily. However, we should do well. We should create our own space with them. And they have started realizing. And gradually, the whole region is likely to come more compact. The greater vision is Asia and then Europe, Eurasia. So I think this will come together gradually, but we have to continue to work on this. I thank you.
Thank you, Janjua. Before Sidra, you asked the question, I'll just add something. For the information of all those who may not be aware of it, the Russians have nothing against improving, enhancing relations with Pakistan vis-a-vis India. Interests of each country are different, and this is what the Russians also claim. However, what is hampering improving the relations is not the Russian attitude or Pakistan's willingness or the Russian willingness. What is hampering is the continued sanctions on Russia and its economic and industrial concerns. For example, we have a deal with the Russians of improving and making a north-south oil pipeline. The Russians are ready to do it tomorrow. The discussions have been going on between the government of Pakistan and the government of Russia. The only thing which was holding it back is that whichever company the Russian offered would come and do the work and undertake the construction turned out to be the one which was under sanctions by the US government. So again, the question is, if you interact with a company which is already under sanction of the US government, it has other implications. So that is why we are talking about finding ways of means of interacting with countries like Russia, which are under sanctions, Iran, which are under sanctions. One realizes that. But that is how we come about and find ways and means of how to go about it. That is one of the goals of what GREF is all about and thinking about. Asif, would you like to add something, please?
Thank you, sir. I think, Abdul Amal, I'd like to just add to what Nasir and the heating up of Indo-US relations is a blessing in disguise for us, because Russians are very annoyed with the strategic alliance or the strategic partnership of India and USA. And in the last about 5 years, the weapon purchase by the Indians and the armament purchase by the Indians has annoyed the Russians a lot. And I am privy to the knowledge that they have even stopped sending spare parts for the existing hardware present in India. So therefore, I think we should, जिसको कहते हैं ना किनारे पे बैठ के तमाशा देखें, ये खुद ही unravel होंगे Indo-Russian relationship. और जैसे दोनों साहबान ने पहले भी कहा, हमें either or के relationship से बचना चाहिए. Indo-Russian relationship अपनी जगह होना चाहिए और हमारी इतनी वर्थ और इतनी वैल्यू होनी चाहिए कि रशिया हमारे साथ relationship कायम करने पर कामयाब हो जाए. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Asif. Sidra, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Sidra Nasheen, and I am a student of BS International Relations 7th semester. So my question is from General Asif.
Sir, please go ahead.
As you said that good governance is the solution to all mess in Pakistan. But sir, the government is polarized on governance prerequisites. So what will be the strategy to cope such issues?
I think the issue is of our political system. It's not this government or that government. The political system is not suited, in my opinion, this is a very personal opinion. This British system of government is not suited to our, thinking of our people. and the political leadership and the people are miles apart. Their interests are, at least visibly, don't seem to be common. So therefore, and you know, the proof of this is that all of these political leaders, irrespective of political party, are, वो जिसको उर्दू में कहते हैं ना, इन्होंने निज़ाम को जप्पी डाली हुई है कि इसको नहीं हाथ लगाना, उसको नहीं हाथ लगाना, और उसके नतीजे में ये है कि people are suffering. There is no accountability. NAB is not the accountability. The accountability is in the ballot. Or you know it very well when you go to our voter. For him, morality, competence, these are not the issues. So unless we change this system, the political system in Pakistan, I am not suggesting some new system, but I think we will have to review the whole structure of governance in Pakistan. The civil service, the police, the political system. So that all has to undergo a major review and restructuring. Short of that, I don't think so. We are going anywhere. And I can bet after 10 years, somebody will asking the same question and somebody will give the same answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asif. Ladies and gentlemen, we have already taken a lot of time and overshot the time by about 45 minutes, for which I know there are other hands which are being raised and questions waiting to be asked, but I will have to forego the questions for today. We can organize a session later on, which, and as we go along in the thing, all the students, for the participants, just to point out, issues of governance, please focus on these issues when we have the politicians sitting here for the webinar, because that would be more specific to it. And like, for example, the next webinar is going to be with ex-foreign secretaries. So we will apprise you of that beforehand. And their focus will remain the foreign policy of Pakistan. And I would be really obliged if your questions are asked accordingly. And then we will go on to the role of the media and the agriculture sector, the economy as theorists and as practitioners. We will be talking about energy security and so on. So you will have ample time to address each subset of the national policy and national security issues one by one. I personally would first of all like to thank the three guest speakers for today. I would like to thank Dr. Abid Sherwani from the UMT for providing us this opportunity, and as always being gracious enough to accommodate GREF with this interaction. I would also like to thank Dr. Shoaib, his team, and the students of Political Science and International Relations Department for participating. We started off with nearly 60 members, and I would like to thank GREF-UMT for the technical support that they have provided us, the participants, and certainly members of the GREF who were part of the seminar. Thank you so much, and in a day, inshallah, hope to see you again. We will keep you informed as we go along with our next webinars, which will be, the next one will be on the 30th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.